Right, what's up everybody? Today we're going to be talking about debt and how to get out of it. But the first thing to understand is that debt in and of itself is not good or bad. It depends on what it's used for and what the return on it is. For example, it can be used in many good ways. A lot of these startup companies rely on debt to grow their business with the expectation that the return they're going to make is going to be higher than the interest rate on the debt. For example, if I get a loan from a bank at let's say 4% on an investment property that I'm hoping returns me 10% a year plus capital gains and all that stuff, at the end of the day, that's a good use of debt. And the reason is because debt allows for leverage. I only have to put down, let's say, a 20% down payment to get the loan for that house. Whereas if I was using my own money, it would take me forever to come up with, let's say, $600,000 over and over again. Whereas with debt, I only have to come up with $20,000 multiple times to control multiple different properties. Now, even with good intentions, that's not to say that debt always works out. Businesses fail, recessions happen, property values go down. But the point is, there is ways to use debt productively. In this video, though, we're primarily going to focus on the not so productive uses of debt, or in other words, what's known as bad debt. Now, bad debt can include things like student loans for degrees that don't lead to a high-paying job. It can be credit card debt that you use to buy clothes and shoes and depreciating things. It could be an auto loan. It could be anything that you take out a loan for that is not putting money back in your pocket. It's very important to understand good and bad uses of debt because it can and it will take over your life if you let it. People can get very wealthy off of debt and people can absolutely ruin their lives because of debt. So it's important to understand what you're doing before you sign on that dotted line. Now, for the purposes of this video, let's say you have a bunch of debt that you need to pay down. Let's go over a framework that's going to help you get it done. Now, the first step in this entire thing is to get organized and stop running from your debt. I know it's very uncomfortable to look at the amount of money you owe and it's extremely intimidating, but you have to just sit down, deal with it, and put it right in front of you. What is the amount you owe? What's the interest rate on it? And do that for all the debts that you have. Now, the second thing you need to do is come up with a game plan of how you're going to approach these debts. And let's go over a couple of methods that are very popular and both of them work. Now, the first is the Snowball Method, made very popular by Dave Ramsey, and this absolutely works, and it relies more so on the emotional aspect of paying down your debts and just your psychology of what kind of person you are. So basically for this example, let's say you have a student loan of $30,000 at 4% interest rate, an auto loan of $10,000 at 5%, and a credit card balance of $8,000 at 22%. With the Snowball Method, what you're going to do is attack the smallest amount in principal of debt and go from there. So in this example, you're going to tackle your credit card debt first, and while you're paying that down, you're going to make the minimum payments on your other two loans. After you're done with your credit card debt, you would then move on to your auto loan, which is your second biggest debt in principal, and then finally your student loan, which is your third biggest debt in principal. Now, the Harvard Business Review actually did a study on this, and it did show that psychologically this is better for people because once you pay down that smallest debt, you get a sense of motivation and accomplishment that motivates you to keep going with the other two. And that way it feels like it's not so intimidating and insurmountable because you've already done it once and you'll keep doing it with the rest of the debts you have. Now, the downside of this method is that you actually end up paying more in interest because instead of tackling the biggest interest rate, you're tackling the smallest principal. But again, it comes down to, are you more of that person that requires that motivation, or are you a disciplined individual that might do better with the debt avalanche method? Now, the idea with the debt avalanche method is that you go after the highest interest rate first, and then you make your way forward. Now, in this example, that still ends up being the credit card debt, which is the highest interest debt. And in real life, this is the debt that most people are going to have the highest interest rate on. Now, just the way the numbers work out in this example, you're still going to be tackling the auto loan second because it's the second highest interest rate, and the student loan third because it's the lowest interest rate. These are basically the two major ways of paying off debt, and your job is to decide honestly which type of person you are and what's going to work best for you. Decide for yourself, and then every single month after the payments that you have to make, such as living expenses and taxes, put to work the money that you have left in the order that you decided based on the method that you want to do. Now, after you have your game plan in place, it might be a good idea to do some extras that might help you out a little bit. This can include things like refinancing. Call every credit card company that you have debt with or your bank and ask them what your options are, what your situation is. Is there a way to go for a lower interest option? It might be worth a phone call. Do the exact same thing with your standard expenses every month, your telephone bill, your heating, your gas. Just call the company, explain your situation, and see if they'll give you a lower expense option. It might not sound like a lot, but these things can add up over time and reduce your debt burden. Now, the next thing to do while you do have a bunch of debt you need to pay down is to reduce your expenses. Obviously, you don't want to torture yourself. You still want to, eat appropriately, pay your monthly expenses of living. But the things that are more luxuries, they need to go for now because you have a job to do, and that is to pay down your debt. There is no piece of clothing or shoes that you're going to have that are going to feel as good as being debt-free and having no one breathe down your neck. So whatever is reasonable for you and your family, cut down the expenses the best you can. Now, the next thing that you can do, and what I'm more a fan of rather than cutting down, is earning more. In the day and age of the internet, you can start basically any idea and operate it very lean until you get a good idea of if it's going to work out or not, and I highly suggest that you do that. Everybody has their unique interests and hobbies and things that they're good at, and see if you can find a way to form a lean operating business around whatever that idea is for you. Test it out in the marketplace and you never know. It might be the thing that leads you out of debt and onto your new financial life. If you don't want to start a business, then consider working more hours at your job or getting a promotion. Invest in yourself to make yourself more valuable in the marketplace so you have more money coming in. Now, last but not least, learn the lesson. Maybe you didn't know any better when you took on this debt or you had bad spending habits, but now you do know better, so make sure you don't repeat the same mistake again. Learn about debt, use it to your advantage, but anytime a company or a credit card is trying to take advantage of you by using debt, do not ever do it again. That's pretty much it for today, guys. I wish you all the best. You can do it. It's been done before. Be disciplined with it. Stick to your game plan, and I wish you the best. We'll see you next time.